manager proceeds to search both of my toolboxes to see if any of the tools in the boxes are there. You need to lock your boxes. So I lock my boxes. Then he pulls out a roll of duct tape and wraps duct tape around them so I can't reopen them. And then he says, it's time for you to leave. We're going to escort you out into the parking lot. If you do not leave right now, we'll call the police and have you arrested for trespass. Well, I wasn't interested in going to jail that day, so I picked my boxes up, troop out into the parking lot, and by 3 o'clock, every one of my union sisters and brothers were out of work, and the fight was on to try and save our union. 6 years on a pension, lost my medical, dental, vision, every one of my benefits, exhausted unemployment benefits, had to move in with friends because I couldn't pay the bills. I swore that day I'd never shut up and never stop fighting for working people until I was dead. So here I am 37 years later. You know, I'm 69 years old, and I'm out talking to folks like you all over the country about there's a war against working people in this country, and if we don't stick together and stand up as a united people, they're going to take everything away from us they possibly. Of course, right now there's a huge building boom, so you don't have to worry about work for the moment. But there's a lot of years between now and when you retire. But what I am going to try and convey to you is a story about how people like us built the American dream, imperfect though it may be for many people, and what corporate America is doing to try and take it away from us. So I'm going to tell you a story that's going to cover 125 years. Ready to go? Yeah. I can't hear you. Yeah. Okay, good. It sounds like people are awake. What do we have in common? And that should be, hopefully, what will cause us to stick together through good times and bad times. So now I want to tell you a story. I want to start with a quote from George Santayana, a great American philosopher. Those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Those who do not remember their past are condemned to repeat their mistakes. The labor movement was the principal force that transformed misery and despair into hope and progress. The captains of industry did not lead this transformation. In fact, they resisted until they were overcome. Today, in terms of how strong is our labor movement. This is the percentage of workers in the United States that are unionized. Here we are at about 1903, we're at 12%. We basically remain at 12% until World War I. We grow, corporate America counterattacks and smashes our movement. And after 35 years of organizing, there's no growth. 1936, the great uprising of the people. In 2 years, the labor movement doubles in size. By 1955, 45, it has tripled in size. It stays that way for 10 years and begins a long decline until 1980 when Ronald Reagan is elected. We lose 30% of our members in 3 years. I lost my job at a union bust right here. And today we're down at 10.5%, which is the lowest it's been since the 1920s. Now, there's no overtime pay, there's no workers' compensation, there's no health and safety laws, there's no unemployment insurance. It is a desperate struggle to survive. And thousands of these workers are children, been pulled out of school, and they're fighting for a 55-hour work week. At this time, workers have no right to form unions in the United States. They have no right to strike. He tells them to shut up, and go home, and go back to work. They go back to Philadelphia. They're eventually starved into submission. The strike is broken, and the 60-hour work week continues. They're sending their human garbage to America. That's what he says in the street English. Eastern Europeans had neither the skill nor energy nor any initiative of quick intelligence. They're stupid. So they're sending us their human garbage, and they're sending us their stupid people. And Mr. Wilson is trying to stir up anger in the among the American people against the immigrants as a way to divert their anger from the wealthy and the powerful over to these immigrants over here who are also struggling to survive. That are coming across the ocean, you know, in true desperation, trying to find a better life. Does that sound effed up to you?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
But if that standard was used in our elections, so they do human chains, mass picketing 24 hours a day around these struck plants to serve as human shields between the strikers in the plants and the National Guard. Can you imagine this? And they said, we are one, we are a union, and they beat General Motors. In the next 2 years, sit-down strikes sweep the auto industry, and the union grows from 20 to 400,000 members. And they sweep across the country as people see, if they can do it in Flint, why can't we do it here? Why can't we do it there? Why can't we do it everywhere? Minimum wage, 8-hour day, 5-day week, overtime pay, child labor protections, and they began to push what's called the right to work movement. How many of you have heard of right to work? Raise your hand. Okay. A lot of you, good, good. And so that history has been stolen from you, and we need to reclaim it and own it and understand that if they could do it, what can we do today and tomorrow that's every bit as big and bold? And 88% of the people who could vote voted. Hello. First time in American history that right to work was repealed by a vote of the people. Let's hear it for our sisters and brothers in the Well, what is the truth? As opposed to what are lies? Because every day there is relentless bombardment about unions are evil, they are corrupt, they are destroying America. And if you, as union members, are not part of the Army pushing back the other way, they can have their way. And we'll eventually get to it. Let me conclude by saying, people like us, like Dr. King said, turn misery and despair into hope and progress. It was people like us who did that. He was true looking back. It is true today. And it will only be true tomorrow if people like us get active and stay active, even if it's on a limited basis. But I say to folks, do you have 3 hours a month that you can dedicate to the union in your community? And I hope that you all decide to stand up and be part of the army of working people, nonviolent army of working people, that's going to take our country back and create a better future for ourselves and our families and our communities. Thank you very much for the opportunity.